I didn't believe in cursed expeditions until Cape Froward. Before that, I believed in currents, in salinity charts, in sediment cores and migratory routes. I believed in data. I believed the ocean was complicated but comprehensible. Cape Froward cured me of that. We were sent to the southernmost tip of Chile to catalog unusual die-offs along the Magellan Strait, collapsed kelp forests, missing seal colonies, fish carcasses washing ashore with no clear pathogen or predation pattern. Standard anomaly work. There were 5 of us. Dr. Halpern, lead marine biologist, Cruz, our diver, Mateo and I handling survey equipment, and young Lydia, fresh from graduate school, still smiling at everything. The land down there doesn't feel like Earth belongs to you. It feels older. Wind cuts sideways across the cliffs. The water is black, even at noon. There are no gentle sounds, only the kind that scrape at bone. We set up base near a limestone outcrop overlooking a narrow cove. The locals had mentioned a sinkhole inland that breathed during storms, but none of them would approach it. We assumed superstition. That was mistake number 1. We found the cave by accident on the 3rd day. The sinkhole was real, wide, circular, swallowing trees along its rim as if the ground had caved inward centuries ago. At the bottom, seawater pooled and drained rhythmically through unseen channels. Not tidal exactly, pulsing. Cruz volunteered to rappel down first. "I'll check for flow stability," he called up. His voice echoed too long after he stopped speaking. The sinkhole's interior opened into a cavern system partially submerged, limestone walls smooth and curved in unnatural symmetry. I followed him down with Mateo while Halpern and Lydia monitored above. The air inside was damp and metallic. It smelled like old salt and something else, like decay that had long since dried. Our headlamps swept across the cavern walls, and that's when we saw them. Bones, not scattered, arranged. At first I thought they were whale remains, maybe dragged in by flood currents, but whales don't have clavicles shaped like that. They don't have elongated finger bones with webbing impressions preserved in calcified residue. They don't have rib cages that narrow into what looked disturbingly like a pelvis designed for upright posture before tapering into fused vertebrae. Cruz crouched beside the nearest skeleton. "Human," he whispered. I shook my head. No. The skull was wrong. The jaw elongated slightly, teeth too numerous, eye sockets angled forward, but broader, the cranial ridge thicker, and the spine. God. The spine extended downward far beyond where human lumbar vertebrae would end, merging into flattened blade-like segments. A tail, not decorative, structural. There were dozens of them, stacked carefully along the cave's far wall, some smaller, some enormous. "Ancient burial site," Mateo muttered. Halpern's voice crackled through the calm. "Document everything. No contact until we verify composition." But Cruz had already brushed sediment from one rib cage, and that's when the sound started. At first I thought it was water draining. Then I realized it was breathing, slow, wet, not from the sinkhole pool, from deeper inside the cavern. All of our lights swung toward the dark tunnel beyond the arranged bones. The breathing stopped. Total silence pressed in. Mateo swallowed audibly. "Probably seals," he said too quickly. We should have left. Instead, Halpern insisted on deeper mapping. Mistake number 2. The tunnel narrowed, then widened again into a secondary chamber where seawater filled the lower half. The surface was still, reflecting our lights like oil, and on the far side, 4 shapes crouched near the waterline. At first I thought they were rock formations. Then one shifted. They were taller than us even in crouch. Pale, gray-toned skin stretched taut over elongated musculature. Their torsos were humanoid, yes, but leaner, more streamlined. Arms long, fingers ending in dark, curved talons. Below the waist, their bodies tapered into powerful tails coiled along the stone. Their eyes caught our headlamps and reflected them back, milky and depthless. One of them tilted its head. The breathing resumed, not labored, curious. Cruz whispered, "They're alive." One of the creatures opened its mouth. The teeth were fine and numerous, layered in interlocking rows like a fish's, but shaped for tearing. It made a sound, not a roar, not a growl, a wet, clicking cadence that reverberated in the stone. Behind us, from the direction of the bone stacks, a second set of clicks answered. I felt something cold slide down my spine. The bones weren't ancient, they were recent. The 4 creatures stood fully upright now, their tails flexed. They didn't rush us, they didn't hiss, they watched, and one of them stepped forward into the shallow water, and I understood something in that moment that has not let me sleep since. We weren't trespassers in a burial site. We were standing inside a mausoleum, and the four in front of us were the last survivors, or the guardians. The one with the scars opened its mouth again, and this time it screamed. The sound wasn't loud, it was sharp, like splitting stone. Behind us, the bones along the wall shifted, not falling, turning, every skull angled toward us in the beam of our lights, and something moved in the water at our backs. The water behind us didn't splash, it rose. I felt it before I saw it. The air pressure changed, like the cave inhaled. Mateo turned first, light shaking in his hand, and I swear I heard his teeth click together from how hard he was trembling. Something pale breached the surface of the sinkhole pool. Not fully, just a crown of bone and skin and something that looked like cartilage ridges running backward over a skull. It was bigger than the four in front of us, much bigger. The arranged skeletons along the wall shifted again, not animated, not alive, but sliding slightly, as if the ground beneath them was moving. Number, as if something beneath them was moving. Halpern's voice crackled in my ear. "What's happening down there? Your vitals just spiked." I couldn't answer. The scarred one stepped fully into the water between us and the others. Its tail displaced the pool without sound. Its eyes never left mine. It made that clicking sound again, slower this time, measured. From behind us, the massive shape in the pool responded with a deeper, resonant pulse. Not sound exactly, vibration. The bones lining the wall shuddered faintly, and then I understood. Those weren't arranged for ceremony. They were arranged for containment. The skeletons formed a barrier, calcified remains stacked deliberately across fissures in the rock. They weren't honoring the dead. They were sealing something. Mateo whispered, "We need to go." Cruz had already started backing up, but the four creatures mirrored his movement exactly, adjusting positions so the narrow tunnel behind us was no longer clear. They were herding us, not to attack, to reposition. The scarred one's mouth opened again, and this time the scream it released was not sharp. It was sustained, low. It vibrated through the cave, through the bones, through my ribs. The water in the sinkhole pool began to churn. Not violently, but steadily, rotating in slow, widening circles. The larger thing behind us rose another foot, its shoulders breached. Its torso was grotesquely broad, covered in thickened plates of scar tissue and pale ridges. Its eyes were small compared to the others, deeply set, almost vestigial. Its lower half never surfaced. It didn't need to. It wasn't here to chase. It was here because we had disturbed the seal. One of the skeleton stacks toppled sideways with a hollow clatter. A crack opened in the limestone floor beneath it. Black water seeped upward from below. The scarred ones stopped screaming. Silence hit like a physical blow. All four of them turned toward the fissure, and for the first time I saw fear in their posture. Not aggression, not dominance. Fear. The massive one in the sinkhole pool emitted a guttural vibration that rattled my teeth. The fissure widened. Something moved beneath the crack. Not a body, a current. A flow of deeper water pushing upward from a lower cavern system. Halpern's voice was shouting in my ear now, but I couldn't process the words. The four creatures moved in sudden coordination, their tails slamming against the ground, dragging bone piles toward the fissure, rebuilding the barrier. They weren't attacking us. They were trying to close it again. The scarred one looked at me once more, not as prey, as obstacle. Then it lunged past us, not toward us, toward the collapsed bones. Its talons dug into calcified ribs, hauling them into place. Cruz grabbed my arm. "They're not the threat." Another crack split the limestone. The black water surged higher, and from the darkness beneath the fissure, something exhaled, not like breathing, like pressure release. The four creatures froze. The massive one in the sinkhole recoiled backward slightly, emitting a low, almost pleading vibration. Mateo whispered, "There's something older down there." The bones we had touched, the ones Cruz had brushed clean, they weren't decorative. They were structural reinforcement. The dead holding back something worse, and we had disturbed it. The scarred one turned its head slowly toward us. Its eyes were wide now, urgent. It clicked sharply, rapid bursts, a signal. Then it shoved a pile of bones toward the fissure and glanced at us again. Understanding hit like a punch. They needed help, not against us, against whatever was rising. The crack split wider. A pale appendage pushed upward through the black water. Mateo followed. Cruz cursed, but joined us. The four creatures didn't stop us. They worked alongside us. The massive one in the sinkhole pool slammed its tail into the rock, dislodging more skeletal stacks that slid toward the fissure. The appendage beneath the crack writhed, probing. It brushed the edge of the opening, and the stone sizzled faintly where it touched. The scarred one shrieked again, this time directed downward, and something answered from below, a sound that did not belong to the ocean. Not fish, not mammal, not reptile. A layered, overlapping hiss that felt like it had never touched air before. The black water surged violently. The fissure split nearly a meter wide. For a moment, I saw beneath, a deeper chamber, endless, and within it, movement. Multiple elongated forms coiling over one another in darkness, waiting. The scarred one slammed its full weight into the bone pile. We shoved with it. Cruz wedged a fractured femur into the crack like a brace. The massive one in the sinkhole released a deafening vibration that made my vision blur. The cave ceiling trembled. Rock shifted, and then the limestone above the fissure collapsed inward, sealing the opening in a thunderous cascade of debris and bone. Water splashed violently, then stilled. The appendage vanished beneath rubble. Silence. All of us froze. The four creatures remained poised, tense. The massive one sank slowly back into the sinkhole pool. The scarred one's chest rose and fell rapidly. Then it turned to us again. Our lights flickered weakly. Its eyes studied us, not hostile, assessing. It made a single, softer clicking sound, and something in that cadence felt unmistakable, a warning, or maybe a truce. Then the four retreated into the secondary chamber. One by one, they submerged into the black water beyond. The scarred one lingered last. It held my gaze for 3 long seconds. Then it disappeared. The cave felt smaller after that. The bones were scattered now, no longer stacked in neat containment lines. Halpern's voice finally cut through clearly. What happened? We lost visual feed for 30 seconds. I looked at the sealed fissure, at the debris and shattered skeletons, at the sinkhole pool now perfectly still. We fixed something, I said hoarsely. Above us, the wind howled over Cape Froward like it always had. But when we climbed out of that sinkhole and looked back down, the water wasn't pulsing anymore. It was quiet. Too quiet. And I've thought about that ever since. Because if those bones were older containment, if the four we saw were the last ones maintaining it, then what happens when they're gone? Because I know what I saw beneath that crack. And there were more than 4. We didn't report it. Not properly. Halpern filed the official log as subterranean marine anomaly with structural collapse. He cited unstable limestone, methane pockets, tectonic pressure vents. He made it sound geological. No mention of bones shaped like hands. No mention of eyes watching us from water that didn't ripple. Cruz quit 2 weeks later. Didn't say why. Just handed in his resignation and moved inland. I heard he won't go near the coast now. Mateo pretended it was adrenaline shock. Lydia stopped smiling. As for me, I can't stop hearing the clicking, because it didn't stop when we left. It followed. The first night back in Punta Arenas, I woke up choking, not from a nightmare, from sound, a faint rhythmic clicking outside the hostel window. Too slow to be rain, too irregular to be branches. I got up and looked out. The street was empty, but the harbor lights reflected off the water in strange, broken angles, like something was just beneath the surface. I told myself it was trauma, auditory memory, stress response. Then the tide chart started coming in. Magellan Strait showed a subtle pattern shift, microcurrents reversing direction at odd hours, small but measurable. Halpern called it seasonal variance, but I knew better. The sinkhole stopped pulsing. That wasn't relief. It was interruption. The four had been maintaining pressure balance, sealing something that wanted to rise, and we helped them once, just once. What happens when it pushes again? 3 weeks after we left Cape Froward, a fishing trawler went missing along the same stretch of coast. No distress call, no debris, just a silent gap on radar. 2 days later, part of its hull washed ashore 20 miles north. The metal wasn't torn, it was compressed, bent inward, like something had wrapped around it. I drove back down there. I didn't tell anyone. The wind at Cape Froward felt heavier this time, colder. The sinkhole rim had shifted, fresh fractures along the limestone edge, and the water inside, it was moving again, not pulsing like before, rotating, slow, steady. I lay flat at the edge and listened. The clicking wasn't frantic anymore. It was synchronized. Not four voices. More. From deeper below, something responded with that layered hiss I heard in the fissure. Closer this time. The containment we rebuilt was temporary. Rubble isn't architecture. Bones are. And we scattered them. I don't think the four can hold it anymore. I don't even know if there are still four. Because when I stared into the sinkhole long enough, something stared back. Not the scarred one. Not the massive guardian from the pool. This one's eyes were smaller, deeper set. And there were more than two. They opened in the dark like slow-burning coals. I didn't wait for it to surface. I left. But the wind followed me all the way back to town, and last night I heard it again, clicking. Outside my apartment window, 3 floors up. There's no water near here, no coastline for miles, just rain and concrete, and something dragging lightly along the building's exterior wall, slow, deliberate, like it's mapping the surface, like it's learning how to climb. I keep replaying that moment in the cave, when the scarred one looked at me. That wasn't gratitude, it wasn't truce, it was calculation. We showed them how to move bones, we showed them how we think. What if sealing the fissure wasn't their only goal? What if they needed to see us up close? Study how we react, because if something older is pushing upward, if the deeper chamber is rising, they may not just defend, they may relocate. And if you've never been to Cape Froward, you should understand something. It's not just the southernmost tip of the continent, it's a hinge between oceans, between currents, between pressures. If the seal fails there, it doesn't stay local. The tide charts are shifting again tonight. I can see it on the public buoy feeds. Minor oscillations, unexplained, and the clicking, it's closer now. Not outside, inside, in the pipes, moving through water systems like they're corridors. I don't think they're hunting us. I think they're preparing, because if the bones were older, then whatever is beneath them is older still, and bones rot, stone cracks, pressure builds, and something down there is tired of waiting. I stopped sleeping after that, not because of nightmares, because the sounds stopped following a pattern. At first, it was only the pipes. The clicking would start around 2:17 a.m. every night, slow, spaced apart, like someone tapping along the plumbing to find weak joints. Then it changed. It started answering itself. 1 click from the bathroom wall, 2 from the kitchen sink, 3 from beneath the floorboards. Not random. Call and response. I turned the water main off. It didn't matter. The pipes were empty, but the clicking continued. 3 days ago, the news reported a sinkhole collapse near Puerto Natales, small harbor. 2 boats swallowed. No casualties. The aerial footage showed something that made my hands go cold. The water inside the sinkhole wasn't muddy or chaotic. It was rotating, exactly like Cape Froward, exactly like the cave before the fissure cracked. And then I saw it. Just for a second, a pale shape sliding along the inner wall before disappearing beneath debris. They're moving inland, not physically, not like walking down highways, through water systems, underground aquifers, drainage tunnels, rivers. You think land separates ocean from city. It doesn't, it just slows it. Last night I heard scratching at my apartment door, not frantic, measured, 4 slow drags, then silence, then 4 again. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, I watched the handle. It didn't turn, but the scratching shifted lower, closer to the bottom of the door, like something was testing the gap. The clicking started again, right outside, then from inside the bathroom. I don't remember crossing the room. I just remember standing in front of the sink, staring at the drain, and hearing water where there was none. A faint suction sound. Then, a single, soft click, right beneath the metal grate, not loud, not threatening, familiar. I backed away slowly, and the drain cover lifted, not flung, not forced, just raised enough for something thin to slide through. A pale finger, webbing stretched between knuckles, talons curved slightly at the tips. It didn't reach for me. It tapped the porcelain once, then twice, then 3 times. I understood immediately. It wasn't the scarred one. The scarred one had authority. This one felt younger, smaller. The tapping wasn't aggression. It was rehearsal. Behind the wall, deeper in the pipes, something larger shifted, a weight against infrastructure. Testing, I whispered before I could stop myself. You're not supposed to be here. The finger paused. Then the clicking came from below again, rapid, excited, from the building's plumbing system.